Big night, big drink. Thank you, Steve Sheets, Joe Jr. By the way, they do serve incredible stuff in the way of food, MTO to go. And I love a little spot of tea. Reminds you of your England friends from over there who made the pottery industry famous. Hey, is Hall China, is the store still open?
Yes,
Good.
it's open.
1927.
It's owned by
Homer Laughlin.
Homer Law.
How much has Joe Wells meant to this community and that Fiesta ware that sold at J.C. Penney's out in Calcutta and everywhere?
How about 3 generations of Joe Wellses? Joe Sr., Joe Jr., Joe the Third.
Who was the best golfer?
Joe Sr. He was, I think, Ohio amateur. I think he was U.S. amateur champ.
He actually lit it up at Oakmont.
Played out of Oakmont, won the Western Pennsylvania, made 3 or 4 times.
All right, listen, very complicated, all this stuff that we got going here tonight. John Banaszak, the head coach of Robert Morris, is going to join us next week. But I just want to take a little time. Jim Equals from the Beaver Allegheny County Times did a little bit of a feature on them, and he, too, could not make it tonight because he's doing something that he should be doing, meeting with his financial advisor, him and his lovely bride, who happens to be a teacher at Blackhawk. They're both Air Force vets, and they're getting ready for retirement in about 10 years. So better he's there with him doing the right thing and then wasting time with me here that he's not getting paid anything to do. So I'm going to tell you what he does get paid to do, and he's a great writer for the Beaver Allegheny County Times. They were 2-9 last year. Depth really has been pretty lean, but according to Coach Banaszak, he told him that this is the deepest they've been since he's been there in 3 years. Offense, 7 starters, technically 9 considering running back Cole Blake, who returns after sitting out 2016 with a knee injury, and former quarterback Matthew Barr is moving to receiver, and they got a new signal caller in Jimmy Walker, a transfer from San Diego State. 7 different quarterbacks last year for John Banaszak. Walker, by the way, prior to San Diego State, 2 years at a junior college. Churritos, in which he threw for 5,320 yards and 55 touchdowns. Barr is a new look that can stretch the field, 6'4" wide receiver. And Blake is a Moon grad, 2015. He led the team with 722 yards. Strength up front, they've got 4 returning starters on O-line, 3 starting from last year. Tackles Rene Rodriguez, Matthews Pennels, and center Connor Monday, and guard Mike Lamb. Now defense, very versatile, a lot of athletic talent, 3-4-4-3. This according to Coach Banaszak. He said, look, these guys can get it done. Very athletic, as I said. 7 starters led by cornerback, a junior Ryan Richards, a second team all NEC pick last season with 51 tackles and an interception. Also, a fellow corner, Drew Allen, and safety Trevon Scott should be a big key. Special teams, punter Adam Check, who set a team record last season for punts, 85, 3,150 yards. Return man Warren Robinson returns after becoming the only player in team history, Digger, to have a multiple punt return for touchdowns. And here's the thing, just kind of summarizing, according to Jim Equals' article, experience on both sides of the ball, plus consistent play from Walker, a quarterback, should be a better road ahead, although the schedule won't give that much breathing room because they have Youngstown State, September the 9th, and North Dakota State, September 23rd, and they open up at Moon Township Joe Walton Stadium, noon against Dayton. John Banaszak here next week. And speaking of Youngstown State, let's start with just Dyke Beatty, another one of those things I talked about earlier today. Your father-in-law, your lovely bride's dad, he invented the penalty flag. That never gets old. I love talking about that.
Well, it's been something of great interest in our family. The fact that Dyke Beatty did invent the penalty flag in 1941. It was first used against Oklahoma City, and one of the referees did the Rose Bowl that year, and from there, everything, as they say, is history.
Pretty important stuff. Youngstown State, great school, big billboard out in Calcutta with their schedule. I love it. Okay, let's get back to some memorable moments in the history of Potter football. How's that, folks? Go ahead.
Well, we mentioned the Warren Harding game that was played October 16th, 59. Originally was to have been played at Patterson Field, but Warren had renovated their stadium and were drawing huge crowds, and they said, we just can't, you can't handle our crowd at Patterson Field. We'll give you $10,000 if you'll bring the team. And now that's 1959. I mean,
big money.
Yes. So we took a vote, and our coach said, all those that want to go up and play, and we'll have a big steak dinner, and we'll give the best buses, and who wants to go? And everybody, they said, now, who doesn't want to go? And of course, it was a unanimous vote. We went up there. We had a big send-off over the diamond. We actually draped Bill Cazell had the Fabric Center. We got a bolt of blue cloth and a bolt of white, and made a giant V on the little building. And we had signs and buses, and I had a huge, well, as far as I was concerned, we won the game before we ever left Fifth Street, and of course beat them that night. A great game. The next game is Belair. Now, Belair and Liverpool used to have a tremendous rivalry. Belair was a much bigger town, stronger, and Steubenville hadn't really come to the front yet. And we defeated them October 28th, 27. Our coach was Joe Hurst, whose family owned the newspaper chain in New Philadelphia. And I rated the best play of the top play of our history as Dave Anderson's lateral interception in that game, which gave us the victory 7-0. David to his grave, that was his highlight of his life. We have the uniform at the Lou Holtz Upper High Valley Hall of Fame that Dave wore. It's 100% wool. I mean, and it's pretty badly moth-eaten, but we've got it at the Hall of Fame. The defeat of Canton McKinley, again, Coach Leland Shakran coached our team. Bill Booth played in that game. Shaq was from Monaca, brought the Carsus brothers down, made a pretty nice ball team out of the Potters. Brought Booth over from Newell, and they were pretty strong. Defeat of Chardon, again, that was the one Jeff Wright caught the ball, and that couldn't be caught if you shot him with a gun. DeMatha Catholic was a mighty, mighty power, still is.
Big win.
Big, and we beat Norm Six was the coach. I was with Norm last night.
Love you,
and,
Norm.
We won that game. 16-0. That was a big victory to pull that one off. It's Wintersville, 21-20. And Rob, I think you called that game.
Yeah, I did.
5 overtimes. I mean, you must have thought.
Hey, wasn't Glenn Southern, before we go any further, wasn't he a class act? Wherever
well,
I wanted him, whether it was the Jigger Room at the Travelers or Ferrello's
Yep.
or the station, the field, he was always there. And he was not a young man at that time.
Probably the best storyteller ever.
Oh, I loved him.
I went to Baldwin Wallace with Glenn, and we called him Ozzy. And he was just such a prolific storyteller. And
Throwing his hat.
And he coached, of course, BW, Wade Watts, Ken McKinley. That's how Glenn got into coaching, through Wade brought him to Ken McKinley out of college, and he coached with him there. And then he got the Minerva job. But anyway, that's number 7 is the Archbishop Carroll game. A long story about how we got that game, because they were from Washington, D.C., and it was a fill-in game. We had lost a game because of some scheduling errors,
Right.
and we called them. They were in the Pittsburgh paper as open date, and they agreed to come and play us. And I think we gave them $1,500, and they said, "Well, give us 16, and we'll bring the band." But at that game, they got lost. Got up on the turnpike to Boardman, and then had to come down, which took them time. They got there at about kickoff time, but it just nonstop hitting that game. You probably worked that game, Rob. Cleveland St. Joe, that's the game in which we were accused of tapping the phone lines.
Did you?
Well,
No.
we beat them 34-12. Heck no, if we'd have tapped the lines, all we'd had to do was call one play on the telephone and run another. We built, and their coach Bill Gutbrod and Coach Bob McNay were inducted into the Ohio High School Football Hall of Fame at Canton later on and I presented McNay, and I thought, I don't want to put Gutbrod on one side of the banquet room and Bob McNay on the other.
Who's next?
I've got next here the Alliance 34-14 victory in 1952. That's the night that Ernie Bell gave Lenny Dawson a lesson in how
Never forgot
to
it.
get off your rear end. And also Ernie blocked 4 punts that night.
Number 10.
Number 10 is the defeat of Weirton. Again, I wasn't there in 1936. Coach Joe Morbido, native of Leetonia, Carnegie Tech classmate of Dyke Beatty. coached here, and then went up and coached with Dyke at Youngstown State, which was Youngstown College then. Don Charlin's defeat of Cardinal Mooney. Early in the season of 1975, we thought we had a good team. They're on that. There's a picture of that team. That's Bobby Thayer, Bob Phillies, Bobby Smith is on Facebook this week of that team. I thought the game in '55, the final game of the year, they played at Alliance. Bob Gibson was the coach, and beat Alliance to give them an undefeated season. There, Bill McKeever, Bobby Wines, they've kind of been promoting that team because Jack Bryan. They were three of the members of that team are still in town, and they all came to the Old Guard lunches this year and had a lot of fun with them.
Number 13.
And that's the 14-13 defeat of Niles by Don Charlton. Don was a great coach, great guy. Married a Liverpool girl, Penny Ely, and lives up around Penn State now. Finally, the defeat of Uniontown late 28-14. Coach Bob Thayer, that was the first time we were ever in the playoffs, and Robert Jackson, Union Lake was the punt, really getting toward the end of the first half, and Bob Thayer's timeout, he's out talking to the team strategy. Well, Robert Jackson, he's not playing. He's not listening at all. He's looking at there, and he says, and Bob says, well, we're going to return left. Robert says, no, right. Okay, Robert, whatever you say. How come? He said, they got a fat kid over there. So they returned right, and of course, White even kicked it to him, and he took it in, and that put us up at the half, and we won the game.
Nothing wrong with fat kids. They grow up to be just as handsome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for Digger, I'm Rob Pratt. Coming up next, it's the NFL with Ted Arnell.